Morning everyone. Now this is the continuation of histology of GIT. This class we are going to discuss a portion of the small intestine. This small intestine, as we know, this is the largest portion of this GIT. So this portion it is 5 to 7 meter long, and initial part this sheath-shaped portion which continues from this pyloric end of the stomach and finally inside the duodenal plexus. This portion is a sheath-shaped portion, and this is the smallest portion of the small intestine known as duodenum. After that, there are these two portions which is known as duodenum and ileum. This jejunum and ileum, they are this coiled portion lying between this space which is guarded by this portion of the large intestine, the ascending part, transverse part, and the descending part. So this portion contains both the portion. Initially, the portion is known as jejunum, and the terminal portion ends at the ileocecal junction. This portion is known as ileum. So these are the three parts: initial small part, duodenum, then is the jejunum, and this last terminal part, this is known as the ileum. So we are going to discuss how this portion is histologically different from each other. So what is the similarity between these things and this portion is that they are modified for absorption. This is the portion where the terminal digestion takes place, and finally the absorption is the major portion from where the absorption is taking place. So there are some absorptive modification, and these absorptive modification obviously they rest on a simple mechanism, that is folds. So there are multiple folds, because of which this surface area altogether it is 600 times increased. If it is unfolded, then it will be lesser. So there are three folds. Initial fold, which is known as plica circularis, or circular fold or semilunar folds. Now these plica circularis, this increases the surface area by 3 folds. And plica circularis is this portion as shown here. You can see this is the plica circularis. So it is the folded mucosa having the core of the submucosa. This folded mucosa, which is in a circular fashion, and this is a permanent fold, it's not temporary fold. So this is the plica circularis, this portion. This is more prominent in the jejunum, this portion having the fold of the mucosa and submucosa forming its core. So it increases the surface area by 3 folds. Second is known as the villi. Villi, which is a very characteristic of this small intestine portion. So this portion with the lining epithelium, it is folded, and the core it contains the lamina propria. So these are known as villi, otherwise known as intestinal villi. So this is the lining epithelium which is folded, and the core is having the connective tissue which is the lamina propria. So that forms the villi. And because of the presence of the villi, the surface area is increased by 10 folds. And third thing is that this is the portion of the villi which is shown here. Third is, you can see these apical modification. This is known as microvilli. And because of the presence of microvilli on the apical surface of these columnar epithelium or the enterocytes, the surface area is increased by 20 times. So altogether, this portion, this intestinal, because of the presence of these folds, total increase in the surface area is 600 times. When it is asked what is a villi, So you can see here the architecture of the villa is shown, and villus is this folding of the lining epithelium, having the core of the lamina propria. So each villus, it has a core of this lamina propria, which is a loose connective tissue that extends from the lamina propria beneath, and it contains fibroblast, which is a connective tissue portion, the fibers, then smooth muscle from the muscularis mucosae, and these lymphocyte and plasma cells which are diffuse all around. And it also contains the vascularity, which is the fenestrated part, so it contains the arteriole and venules. Along with that, it contains a characteristic central portion, contains a lymphatic, which is known as lacteal. So as shown here, it is the folded portion of the lining epithelium, having the core of the connective tissue, which is a loose connective tissue, along with the muscle fibers from this muscularis mucosae, and the connective tissue. Along with that, they have this vascularity, and the characteristic is this lymphatic capillary in the bone, which is the lacteal, and which it is very important for the absorption of the fat. Ravi? So altogether there are several thousand microvilli on the apical surface of these enterocytes, which is the simple columnar epithelium. So these enterocytes, which are lining this intestinal mucosa, they have around 2000 to 3000 microvilli on their apical surface. And as it is shown in this electron microscopic view, you can see this apical surface filled with the microvilli. And because of the presence of these thousands of the microvilli, there is a striated appearance of this apical portion. And that's why this lining epithelium is often known as having striated or brush border. You can see this portion is striated or brush border. It is not uniform. And this is only because of the presence of microvilli on their apical surface, imparting them a brush border appearance. About these microvilli, which impart a brush border appearance to the apical surface of the simple columnar epithelium lining the intestinal mucosa, these have this folded portion of the plasma membrane which enclose the cytoplasm, which is elongating apically, and they also have a dense core of this cross-linking actin filament. So these microvilli, they have this core of the actin filament along with the cytoplasm, and it is wrapped by the plasma membrane. So this is a folding of the plasma membrane in fact. So the folded plasma membrane, it is having the central core of the actin filament. So that's how this microvilli is formed. Now, these microvilli, they are attached to each other by a glycoprotein known as glycocalyx. And these glycocalyx, they bind these nutritional portion, the final product of the absorption, to these microvilli. Also, they bind to the pathogen. So, these microvilli, they are bound together by this glycocalyx, which is a glycoprotein, and they are involved with the absorption, binding to the nutritional portion, the final byproduct, and also to the pathogen. When we see this lining epithelium, it is invaginating into the lamina propria in the villi. Projection. इसी को ये करना. हाँ ये देखो ना कुछ लोग ये कर लेना है ना. यहाँ से भी ना. So what we can see here is that this lining epithelium, it is invaginating into the underlying lamina propria as short tubular glands. Can we see this short tubular gland? So this is the lining epithelium continuing into this lamina propria as short tubular gland, and this is also known as intestinal gland or the crypts of liver cone. And this intestinal crypt of liver cone, they are having the same lining, so they are continuous with that of the lining epithelium. So this is a simple tubular gland. These basal portion of the villi, they have this narrow opening of these intestinal gland. Can we see? This is the narrow opening of these intestinal gland here. So this intravillous space, the space between two villi, these have this narrow opening of the intestinal gland. This is a enlarged view. Also here you can see this is the portion of the intestinal gland, basal portion shown here. You can see plenty of the cells which are pouring their secretion into this intestinal crypt, and they are finally opening into this intravillous space. What are these cells which are opening into this intestinal crypt? So yes, basally placed some cells. These are the stem cells or progenitor cells. Other than that, in between are some transit amplifying cells which are forming these cells, which are being replenished by this basally placed portion. Also situated between these stem cells situated are the Paneth cells. Paneth cell provide innate immunity to this intestinal mucosa. They are these Paneth cells. Also there are some enteroendocrine cells, which is a part of Apert system. We will discuss that one by one. And lining epithelium having the enterocytes as well as the goblet cells, which is a unicellular mucus secreting gland. So the cells altogether are enterocytes involved with the absorption. Then are goblet cells, which are mucus secreting cells. Then are these enteroendocrine cells, Paneth cells, and the progenitor or stem cells and their intermediary. So these are the cells which are lying in the intestinal crypt or lining the intestinal crypt. And as we can see, this is the narrow portion between the intravillous space where these glands finally pour their secretion. So intravillous space, they have the opening of this intestinal glands. Here we can see the lining epithelium. So the mucosal lining shown here in the high power view, what we can see here is that this apical portion of these, they have this striated appearance. This is only because of the presence of microvilli. So This brush border or the striated appearance is because of the presence of the microvilli on the apical surface of the enterocytes, which is a columnar epithelium, unicellular column, simple columnar epithelium, and this simple columnar epithelium, as we know, they have this nucleus near the base, as we can see here. Nucleus is the oval and is near the base. Apically, they are having this microvilli, which is imparting a brush border appearance to. Now, interspace between this enterocyte is this mucus secreting unicellular gland, which is known as goblet cells. So, what we can see here, this apical portion here doesn't contain any these brush border appearance, rather this is empty, and this is the portion from where the mucin is being poured. So this is the mucosal lining of the small intestine. What are these goblet cells? So goblet cell, they contains this protein which is mucin, and it is a unicellular gland. And when they pour their mucin which is a highly hydrophilic substance, so it spreads and it imbibes water. So a small amount of mucin, finally it enlarges so much and covers the intestinal surface like that of the compressed foam in a shaving foam. So once it is poured, it expands because of its hydrophilic nature of the mucin, which finally forms a mucus covering over this small intestinal mucosa. And why this covering is needed? Because the digestive material, digested portion which is coming from the stomach, it is highly acidic. This time it is highly acidic. Now, to counter that or to protect the intestinal mucosa, this mucin is needed. So there is this goblet cell which is also providing the mucin, some part of the this mucus covering. So there are other modification also. In the initial part we will discuss them. So this is the goblet cell filled with the mucin protein. Now the Paneth cell, which is lying in the basal portion of the intestinal fluid, as we can see here. This is a low power view showing this basal portion of the intravillous space. So what we can see here is the villi, so another villi, and between them is the intravillous space having this simple tubular gland. So in the basal portion we can see there are these eosinophilic cells. These are the eosinophilic cells in the basal portion. When we enlarge these, you see is that these cells, they have this apically filled cytoplasm having these eosinophilic granules. So their apical cytoplasm is filled with the fine granules which are eosinophilic, and the nucleus is placed basally. So these cells, they are known as Paneth cells. The Paneth cells, they provide innate immunity to the intestinal mucosa by secreting lysozyme, because this is lysozyme rich portion in the granules, and other type of peptide protein. So this is the Paneth cells, and these lysozyme, they act on the bacterial wall to hydrolyze that. So this provide a innate immunity to this intestinal mucosa. So what is the characteristic of this Paneth cell? They are apically filled with the eosinophilic granules, and the nucleus is basally placed. And these cells are where? These cells are in the basal portion of this intestinal gland, lying in the basal portion of the intestinal gland. There are some other type of cells which are scattered throughout the GIT. They are known as enteroendocrine cells, or they are known as Apurt cells, amine precursor uptake and decarboxylations. So these are known as enteroendocrine cells or Apert cells, and they are the part of these widely distributed diffuse neuroendocrine cells, because they not only impart a local effect, which is a paracrine effect, they also enter the bloodstream and they have this endocrine effect. What we see here is that these enteroendocrine cells, though they are both type of cells, some contains microvilli and some doesn't, but those having microvilli are shown here, and these microvilli present at the apical end, they are the nutrient sensing mechanism, similar to that of the gustatory cells in the tongue. So they sense the nutrient, and the basal portion is filled with the fine granules. So basally they are fine granules, and they are released depending on the type of sense they are having. So these granules, when they are released, they secrete, they are transformed into secretin and some satiation peptide, which sends a sense of satiety to the higher center, to the brain. So they not only affect the secretion of the local enzymes, but they also modulate the GIT motility, gastrointestinal motility, and also they, working through the satiety center, they provide the information of satiety, a satisfaction. No longer you need a food. So that's how they act as a local, they have this local effect, paracrine effect, as well as they have this endocrine effect on the entire gastrointestinal mucosa, or the this muscle portion, muscularis externa portion. So they are the Apert cells, and these Apert cells or enteroendocrine cells, they are widely distributed throughout the GIT. Now we will discuss one by one these different portions. So starting with the duodenum. So as we know, this portion of the GIT, they have these four concentric layers. The initial layer is known as mucosa, then is the submucosa, then is the muscle layer, which is muscularis externa, and finally is the adventitia or serosa. Now starting with this portion of the duodenum, this mucosa, they have this lining epithelium, which is simple columnar epithelium, and they are interspaced by few goblet cells, which are empty looking cells, as we can see here. There are some goblet cells also interspaced. Otherwise, it is a simple columnar epithelium. So the lining epithelium is a simple columnar epithelium and few goblet cells. Then is this, which is resting on this loose connective tissue, having diffuse lymphocytic portion. So this is the lamina propria. And finally, they are resting on this thick portion of the muscularis mucosae. Now the muscularis mucosae here is so thicker that it is again divided into this inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. But again, because of the presence of these Brunner's gland, they are somehow interrupted in between. Because the ducts, they penetrate through this muscularis mucosa and then they open into this intravillous space. So the submucosa here, as we can see, it is very lightly stained and it is filled with this mucus gland. And these are this compound branch mucus gland, which has their duct opening into the mucosa by passing through the muscularis mucosa. And these mucus secreting gland into the duodenum, they are known as Brunner's gland. So these Brunner's gland, they are characteristic of the duodenum. Brunner's gland in the submucosa, which is a mucus secreting gland, it is the characteristic of the duodenum. Then these muscularis externa is there, which is again having this inner circular and outer longitudinal layer, smooth muscle layer, and sometimes we can appreciate there is some this nerve portion lying between them, which is a portion of the mantle plexus. And the outermost layer is of adventitia or serosa, depending on whether it is the first part, which is the mobile part. So this portion is having the serosa altogether. Otherwise, portion of the duodenum, since it is plastered to the posterior abdominal wall, so anterior wall is having only the serosa, the posterior wall is having the connective tissue. So that portion has adventitia, it belongs to this posterior wall, and if the section is taken from the anterior wall, it has outermost lining of the serosa. What about this portion of the villi? So, duodenal villi, they are known as leaf-like. So, they are lesser in number though, but they are broader, and because of that, the crypt of liver cone is straighter. So, the duodenal villi, they are broad like leaf, and they have this straighter crypt of liver cone. Also, you can appreciate here the lining epithelium having some goblet cells. Can we see these goblet cells? The space between the simple columnar epithelium. They are goblet cells. And you can see here is that this is the lining epithelium, which is having this broad villi. So this broad villi, they have this intervillar space having this straighter gland, and also in the submucosa we have this mucus secreting Brunner's gland, and the duct of this Brunner's gland, they open into this intervillar space and they traverse through this musculus mucosa in the course. So that portion is interrupted in between. Otherwise, this musculus mucosa here is very thick, has this inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. So what we can appreciate here is that lining epithelium having this simple columnar epithelium and having this goblet cell in between, and you can see this straighter portion of the crypt of liver cone having the intestinal gland. Again, it is stain preparation which is shown here. You can see the broader villi, leaf-like villi, and the straighter portion of the crypt of liver cone, that intestinal gland. And you can see here the submucosa filled with the duodenal glands, Brunner's gland. Since we already know now is the architecture of the duodenum, we can now discuss this gastroduodenal junction. Other changes which are taking place at this junctional region is that initially you can see here is the deeper portion of the muscles here. So this muscularis externa layer is thickened here to form this pyloric sphincter in the gastric side. And as we proceed towards the duodenum, this is diminished suddenly. Now starting with the lining epithelium, you can see here the lining epithelium invaginating here, and this is forming the gastric pit on this portion of the pyloric side. And as we proceed towards the duodenum, you can see now no longer pit is visible, rather these lining epithelium, they are projecting as villi, having the core of the lamina propria, and that's how the villi is being formed. You can see this broader villi So major difference is that here the lining epithelium is invaginating into the lamina propria. Here the lamina propria is exvaginating, and along with that the lining epithelium is projected as villi. Also what we can see here is that since in case of pylorus portion they have this mucus secreting gland in their lamina propria, there are no mucus secreting gland here, rather this portion is having the crypt of Liverpool, this intestinal gland. Muscularis mucosa here is continuous in the gastric side. It is somehow disrupted by the duct of the Brunner's gland in case of the portion of the duodenum. And also here the basic difference is that submucosa in case of the pylorus doesn't contain any gland, whereas in case of duodenum it is filled with the mucus secreting Brunner's gland. And finally, we already know here it is the HIPA portion, thickened portion of the pyloric sphincter in the gastric side, and in the duodenal side is only the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. So the section is different here, it is showing thus opposite, so it is not a transfer, rather a longitudinal section. So what we can see is that this outer layer it is appearing as circular, whereas the inner layer it is appearing as longitudinal layer, only because it is a longitudinal section. So only in longitudinal section we can appreciate this portion of the junction. That's why it is a longitudinal section. And the muscle layer shown here is that inner portion which is showing the stumps. This is the circular layer, and the outer portion is the longitudinal layer. And this outermost layer is of peritoneum. So this is a serosa. So this is the gastroduodenal junction. The difference is that the lining epithelium is invaginating, forming the gastric pit in the pyloric side. It is exvaginating, forming a villi on the duodenal side. And the submucosa is deficient of any gland in case of portion of the gastric side, pylorus side, but it is filled with the mucus secreting Brunner's gland on the duodenal side. Also it is a stain preparation which is shown here. You can see. Now the next slide is of jejunum. So the jejunum having again plenty of villi, so it is characterized by this abundant villi which are tall and slender, and the number of goblet cells are more than that of the duodenum. And also is very much developed here is these circular holes which is known as plica circularis. So this is characterized by the presence of this plica circularis, which are these large holes of mucosa having the core of the submucosa. So what we can see here is that these are the plica, multiple plica circularis, having the core of the submucosa and the folding of this portion of the mucosal portion. So they are lined by the mucosa and strengthened, or core is formed by the connective tissue of the submucosa. This is a low power view showing how these villi, they are plenty in case of jejunum, and they are long and slender. So this long slender villi, they are the characteristic. Also characteristic are these circular holes. So this plica circularis as shown here, we can see. This is a plica circularis. So this is having a core of the submucosa and lined by the mucosa. And these are very much developed in the portion of the jejunum, plica circularis. Also, you can see, appreciate this portion of the villi. So villi, as you can see, these are the long slender one here, having the lining epithelium, and the core is formed by the lamina propria. So the lamina propria is exvaginating, and they are lined by the lining epithelium, having this enterocyte, which is the simple columnar epithelium, and the goblet cells. They both, the enterocyte as the and the goblet cells, both form the lining epithelium. And the goblet cells here are more than that of the duodenum. The number of goblet cells are increasing. So you can appreciate here the lining, the mucosa having this lining epithelium and the goblet cells which are increased, and the villi which are forming here is a long slender one. Then is the lamina propria, which is the loose connective tissue having the lacteals in their core. And what we can appreciate here is that you can see the strands of the smooth muscle. The strand of the smooth muscle. The prolongation of the muscularis mucosa into the portion of the lamina propria. So, lamina propria, there is the lining epithelium, the lamina propria, and finally is the muscularis mucosa. They form the mucosa. Then is the submucosa, and submucosa here is projecting as these plica circularis, but they doesn't contain any glands. Rather, only they contain the vascularity and the connective tissue. There is no mucus secreting gland in this jejunum. Then is the muscle layer, which is muscularis externa. The muscularis externa containing the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. And between them, we can appreciate here is the mesenteric plexus. And the outermost layer here is the serosa all over, because the entire this portion of the jejunum and the ileum, they are wrapped by the peritoneum. So that's why the lining epithelium here is the serosa. The outermost lining is the serosa lining. So these are the four layers. The mucosa having this long cylinder villi, and submucosa, it doesn't contain any Brunner's gland or mucus-secreting gland. Muscularis externa having inner circular and outer longitudinal layer, and the outermost is the serosa. So here we can also appreciate this portion, how this plica circularis is being formed by exvaginating, and they are covered by the mucosal line. So, and this villi, they are this plenty in number, and they are long and slender rather than being broad, as in case of the duodenum. They are longer and slender, narrow. So they are this long slender villi, and these circular folds, they are very much developed in this portion. What we can see here is that the submucosa doesn't contain any mucus-secreting gland. And also, we'll see in the next slide of the ileum, doesn't contain even any lymphatic nodule aggregation. So, submucosa here is devoid of any mucus-secreting gland and lymphatic nodule aggregation. So, solitary nodule may be there, but there is no linear, they are not in the linear fashion, not an aggregation is there. And this is the terminal portion, which is the ileum. What you can see here is that villi here is now scanned. They are laser, and they are narrow and short. So they are short cylinder in type. Narrower and shorter villi. And also the number of goblet cells, they are plenty. They are increased in number. But you can see this empty looking portion which present the goblet cell, mucin secreting cells. They are much in number. So what happens here is that the villi they have become shorter and narrower and lesser. Also, this lining epithelium along with the enterocyte, they contain more goblet cells. So, as per the goblet cell or the amount of the goblet cells in the lining epithelium is concerned, the duodenum has the least and the ileum it has the most. And what we see here is that in submucosa there is a linear aggregation of these lymphoid nodules, and these lymphoid nodules linearly arranged, so they form these characteristic Pierce patches. So the lymphatic nodule aggregation in this submucosa is also even invaginate into the lamina propria. They form these characteristic Pierce patches of the ileum. You can see this nodular aggregation of the lymphocyte. They are linear aggregation throughout the submucosa, even extending into the lamina propria. They are the Pierce patches. What we see here, as per the lining is concerned, this lining mucosa, they are having the villi which are short and narrower, short and slender, and they are lesser. The lining epithelium is that of the simple columnar epithelium, but the goblet cells, they are increased. So increased number of goblet cells in the lining epithelium. And this lamina propria, they have this extension of the underlying Pierce patches. So there is a diffuse lymphocytic extension of the Pierce patches or lymphocyte into the lamina propria. And since the interface between the submucosa is also filled with the linear aggregation of the lymphocyte. So these linear lymphoid nodules which are forming the Pierce patches here, they are extending into the lamina propria. So the interface which is formed by the muscularis mucosae, it is interrupted. So that's why there is a disruption of the muscularis mucosa, only because these Pierce patches, they are into the submucosa as well as they are into the lamina propria. So that's why the muscularis mucosa, which is lying at the interface, it is interrupted. And we'll discuss how these surface cells lining these Pierce patches, they are formed by a different type of cells, which are low cuboidal cells known as M cells or microfold cells. So this is a portion which is also characteristic. The lining epithelium over the Pierce patches is of microfold cells. So here you can appreciate these. The mucosa is fascinating as villi, and villi are short, slender and lesser in number. And also they have this plenty of goblet cells. The number of goblet cells have increased. And this lamina propria, they have this diffuse lymphocytic penetration, as well as some of them even have this extension of the Pierce patches, which is lying in the submucosa beneath. That's why what we can see here is that submucosa is filled with the lymphatic aggregation, the lamina propria is filled with the lymphatic aggregation, and the interface is muscularis mucosa. This is interrupted. or disrupted musculus mucosa only because of the extension of these lymphoid nodules of bare patches in the lamina propria. And then the outermost layer is second outermost layer is the musculus externa, having this inner circular and outer longitudinal layer, and the outermost layer throughout is that of the peritoneum, visceral peritoneum, which is serosa. And this is the M cells or microfold cells here shown. What we can see is that it has this porous basement membrane. So basement membrane in relation to this microfold cells which lines the Peyer's patches. This is a simple cuboidal epithelium and they are having this porous basement membrane. And because of the porosity of the basement membrane and these basal folds of the plasma membrane in the basal portion, we can see what? These are the lymphocytes which are penetrating into the cells. So we can see the basal aggregation of the cells and also into the cell itself, the simple cuboidal epithelium. They are permitting this lymphocyte only because of these basal folds. So macrophages and lymphocyte, they are penetrating these fenestrated basement membrane and they are accumulating into the cells. And these microphage cells, they also have this antigen presenting portion. So they also act as an antigen presenting cells. They endocytose these pathogen or antigen and they present them to the lymphocyte or phagocytic cells. So that's how they act as a antigen presenting cells, or they act as a defense mechanism. So these are the microfold cells, M cells. They line the Peyer's patches. It looks different from that of the enterocyte because they are low cuboidal epithelium. Enterocyte are this high columnar type of epithelium, or columnar epithelium. And there are two things that we should discuss clinically with this histology of small intestine. One is known as gluten sensitive enteropathy. Gluten sensitive enteropathy, also known as celiac disease. Now we know gluten is a protein into the wheat, barley, even oats. So these gluten, they are like some antigen or act as an antigen into the gut of some individual which are immune response with relation to the gluten. When they digest this gluten, they have this symptom of vomiting, indigestion, bloating, diarrhea. So all GI related symptoms they have. And what this gluten does is that they act as an antigen into their mucosa of the small intestine especially. So acting on this antigen is because of this autoimmune response. Finally, this mucosa is being atrophied. So this mucosa lining of the small intestine is being atrophied because of the immune response against the gluten. So because of that, when this mucosa is atrophied, the person exhibit a malabsorption syndrome. Because we know now this lining epithelium or the mucosal lining of the small intestine, it is involved with what? Absorption of the nutrients. So when it is atrophied, this portion, this small intestine, is no longer able to absorb the nutrients. So this is the celiac disease, one of the malabsorption syndrome. Reason being the gluten, which is in the wheat and barley and some other grains. Other disease which is involved with again lining epithelium is known as inflammatory bowel disease or Crohn's disease. Now this inflammatory bowel disease or IBD, as we know, this is the inflammation of the bowel, as the name suggests. So because of the inflammation, again, the person experiences the GIT symptoms, and especially it involves the small intestine portion. They are the two things or two applied aspect of the pathology of the Crohn's disease is exactly not known. There are multiple pathology, multiple etiology of that. So these are the two clinically related symptoms related with the lining epithelium of the small intestine, celiac disease and Crohn's disease. You can assess yourself, because now no more interactive session we are doing. You know why? Because of some of you which have no courage, a cowardice act, a shameful act, which are they doing, interrupting the classes and doing these stupid things. So we are no longer permitting any interruptive situations, and the person should be ashamed of that, because he is the sole person who is doing this. So you should assess yourself, but this slide is off. What we can see here is that the villi are broader, and you can see here this portion of the submucosa having this Purus gland. So this is the slide of the duodenum. Let's end the session now. Already.